What's going on, guys? My name's Jeff and this is Premium Aquatics, and today we're taking a look at a calcium reactor from Reef Octopus. Hope everybody is having a fantastic day, and if you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather. But that's not going to stop me, because we're going to be making a video about the CR140 from Reef Octopus. So let's jump into it. What's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at the Octo Calcium Reactor, more specifically the Cal React 140. And if you are interested in calcium reactors and this is a new subject for you, I strongly recommend that you do as much research as you possibly can before jumping into anything like this. I do not use a calcium reactor, and the reason being is I can still utilize two-part and achieve the results that I'm looking for. And two-part from a ongoing standpoint is probably more expensive, where your calcium reactors, it's more expensive up front to set up, but once you have it set up, it really doesn't cost much of anything at all to keep up and running. Some of the benefits of a calcium reactor is once they're set up and running, they're more consistent. They are definitely going to be dosing calcium constantly, and as far as filling up the reactor, you only have to do that maybe 2 or 3 times a year, as opposed to a two-part dosing regime. You're going to be probably, depending on the demands of your tank, you could be refilling your reservoirs every month, and there's a cost associated with that. So as far as setting up a calcium reactor up front, more expensive. Once you have it dialed in, there's a little bit more to it than just buying a reactor. And CoralView has a really excellent video of all the ins and outs of setting up a calcium reactor, and I'm going to be linking that in the description below for you folks that are new to the subject and want to learn more about calcium reactors. So the Cal React 140 is ideal for your 100-gallon all the way up to your 210-gallon size aquariums. So it's a really good reactor that is going to service those mid-sized tanks up into those larger size tanks. Most people that are starting out with calcium reactors, this is definitely a good size to consider. So let's jump into it. Alright, so right on top we have a diagram of how it's supposed to be set up. And the one great thing about CoralView is they have very detailed instructions manuals, helpful videos on their website. So anytime that you buy any of their products, jump over to the website, check it out. They give a ton of helpful information, helpful videos to help you along with your new piece of equipment. We have some fittings along with some tubing. And we have a cross connection. All these threaded connections are going to make for a very easy and quick setup. As soon as you get those O-rings in place, pretty much we'll be ready to go. Then the calcium reactor, heavy duty acrylic. Put a lot of thought and consideration into the assembly of their products. And then we have the DC pump that comes with the Cal React 140. This is the Varios 2, which is a circulation pump, and it's DC controlled, so that's very, very awesome. So you're going to be able to dial that reactor in a little bit better. The one thing about reactors is they don't need a ton of water pressure. It's actually could be dangerous if there's too much pressure going on in there. So having the ability to turn down your pump give you an advantage and a little bit of a safety feature with your calcium reactor. This is everything with the Cal React 140. Let's go ahead and get this guy cleaned up a little bit. A little styrofoam, and then get the connections on there, install the pump, and see what it looks like.
Alright folks, so some of the features of the Cal React 140, you have a reverse flow and CO2 recirculating design. Now the reason for this is you don't want gas building up at the top of the reactor. You want it to recirculate and be reused instead of just going to waste. It also has a built-in bubble counter for monitoring the CO2 drip rate. It has a probe holder, but the probe is not included. You need to buy that separately. It has a removable lid to make maintenance very easy, a precision influent control valve, and high quality handmade solid cast acrylic, which once you put your hands on this thing, you know that it is absolutely amazing. And hands down, the best feature of the CR140 is the variable speed pump that comes with it. This is going to take the controllability of this reactor to a whole nother level. And lastly, the CR140 comes with a 2-year warranty. That's pretty solid for any type of aquarium product.
Alright, so starting off with the Varios 2, as far as connecting this to the reactor itself, very simple to do. These threads, when you are putting them together, very seamless. There's some O-rings in there, so it's going to help keep that watertight. This is a controller for the Varios 2, very simple in its design. You have, your increase, your decrease. You also have a pause, and it can pause for 15 to 60 minutes. Very similar in other designs that we've looked at from Reef Octopus in the past, and it does have that 0 to 10 volt controllability, and you also have it labeled on the top so you know what controller you are messing with. So as far as assembly time, it took about 5 minutes to put this together, which is relatively short. Obviously, if you're setting up a calcium reactor, there's a little bit more to it when you start getting into the CO2 and all that other stuff. Right down here where your water source is going to enter into the reactor, and it is recommended that you have a valve that comes with the kit, and you have 2 of these for different, one for the intake and one also for the recirculation valve. And this is where the water enters into the reactor down here. Right here on the back, this is where the CO2 enters into the reactor, and here they have provided you a valve that is going to ensure that there isn't any type of water that could be potentially going back into the tank. And as far as these quick connects, very simple and easy to use. As simple as just pushing it in place and it's connected. If you want to take it, if you try to pull on that, it's not going to come out. If you want to release it, it takes a little bit of effort. You just have to push down on that dark gray connection and it pulls out relatively easy. So this is where the CO2 enters into the reactor. Here on the front, this is the recirculation. So this is designed to recirculate the CO2 within the reactor. And the benefit of that is it's going to prevent gas from building up in the reactor and potentially blowing the cap off the reactor. So it's going to constantly recycle the CO2 back into the reactor. Moving on to the top portion of the reactor, you have this O-ring that you need to install. And again, you want to use some food grade grease to keep that O-ring in good shape for a long time. And then your cap is very stocky. So there's a couple things to talk about right here in this section of the reactor. So we already kind of started talking about this middle connection right here. This is for the CO2 overfill. So quite often CO2 will build up in the top portion of the reactor. If it does continue to build up, it has the ability to recirculate back into the reactor and continue to be used. When you are installing the tubing on this section, it's just like the other portions where you push in. It's a quick fit connection. They're pretty handy and easy to use. And then you're going to use your second valve. You would cut maybe right about there and be able to control the amount of CO2 that is leaving the top of the chamber and going back into the reactor. Essentially, this is what you would end up with. So down here on the right, you have your recirculation connection right here where the CO2 is re-entering back into the chamber, being reused, and then connects right here on the top. This quick connect right here is where the outfeed of the reactor. So essentially, you're going to use that quick connect, just push that hose right in there. Then you have this little valve that you're able to control the amount of liquid that is leaving the reactor with that little valve and slowly drip it into your aquarium in a high flow section of your sump. As far as this portion of the reactor, this is for a probe. Now it has a probe holder installed. The probe is something that you're going to have to pick up additionally, but it's relatively simple in its design. So pretend that this is your probe. You would obviously want to thread this cap on first. You take your O-ring and that kind of helps you set it to the appropriate height. Then you have your cap that's threaded on. And it just threads down over the top, and it's going to hold that probe in place. It's recommended that you change out your probes every year. It's important to calibrate your probes very often. I try to calibrate my probes once a month. And the Octo Cal React 140 is Apex ready. So that is a additional feature that's going to help you dial in your reactor and figure out exactly how much you need a little bit faster. Alright folks, that's going to do it for today's video. If you want to take a look at the Reef Octopus CR140, there's going to be a link down in the description below, which will bring you to Premium Aquatics, where you can do some more research or even pick one up for yourself. That's going to do it for today. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next time right here with a brand new video.